Welcome to Boss Up Goddess. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and I interview trailblazing women who are sharing their wisdom to help us all live bigger, better, and bolder. With me today is an amazing woman that I met in Sedona, Arizona at a retreat hosted by Lisa Peterson, who is author of The Mindful Millionaire. And this woman is so amazing because during one of our sessions, she said, I've been working on finding my power for 10 years. And then I finally realized I found it. And it was this wonderful moment. So welcome, Simone Griffin.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That's so appreciated. And look, I had that kind of moment when I was reading your book. And total shameless plug, when I was reading Elizabeth's memoir, God's Answer is No, I took so much stuff away from it to the point where, and it took me a year, guys, to implement this, but I finally started journaling. This is my journal right here. In fact, to the point where I took notes for this session in my journal. I was like, this is very Elizabeth of me. I'm very excited. So you definitely inspired me and motivated me.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, let me introduce you, Simone. You are Vice President of Home Free USA. You're a dynamic woman doing many, many things. And the message today is to help our viewers find their power. So I want to hear how you did that, because that has enabled you to launch to a space where you're in a major life shift transition to change sort of the trajectory of your career path. First, how did you find your power? How do you do that?
Well, first of all, I was in this space. It happens with, I'm sure, so many of us. I was in a horrible relationship. That's really how, I think a lot of us end up changing in those times. And I knew that I could be happy, and I was fortunate to have people around me who were very happy. But yet I wasn't, and I had no real reason. I came from a very happy childhood. My parents were happy. My parents were still married. I had friends who, at that time, this was in my mid-20s. At that time, I had friends who were getting married, and they were no different from me. So this wasn't a matter of, well, they have this, and I was like, no, we have all the same. Okay, There's no reason why they should be in their happily ever after, and I'm stuck over here. And I really wanted to know, what was that about? Because I knew that they weren't doing any more work than I was. They weren't smarter than me. They weren't prettier than me. And I don't say that to belittle them. I'm saying that I knew that I was just as capable as they were. But yet they were finding their happily ever after. And I felt very stuck in a relationship that I had created. I could have easily walked away from that relationship. I could have said, I don't want to do this anymore. But something within me knew that, okay, I leave today, I'll be back tomorrow. And it was almost like an addiction, And it was like, so then I was like, why am I here? What is happening? And the thing that I really think was the big difference with me, Elizabeth, is that I wanted to know what was different. I wanted to know, I wanted to do the work. I wanted to find out, why am I here and they're not? Why is it that they are, these women who are out there being really great friends of mine and family members, they're able to go off and meet these great men and live the lives that they want and get the jobs that they want and make the money that they want. Why is it that I can't? Why am I keeping myself stuck? Why am I holding myself back? And I think that makes a huge difference, because I was willing to dig and figure out what is this about me, in the sense that I know others who are not willing to do that type of thing.
Right.
They're not willing to find out, go beneath the layers. They really just want the outside world to come to them. They want, in my case, they just want the guy to leave and a new perfect man to come. And I knew that I'm the center of the universe. That's what the center of my universe. Not everybody's the center of my universe. And so if I'm the center of my universe, and if the play is all happening around me, then I'm the one that has to shift. And I was really fortunate. And this is where we go into, when you put something out into the universe corresponds towards your highest and best good. And so what happened is that my then partner, he found this church in Atlanta called Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta, which was New Thought, religious science, science of mind, that element. I had never heard of any of that, but I knew that I had, on a very spiritual level with God, with going to the traditional Baptist churches, I had gotten to a space where I was like, yes, but I kept saying, yes, but what about this? And what about that? In my mind, not out loud. And it wasn't that I didn't believe that Jesus existed. I just did not think the stories that were being told through biblical terms just did not make sense to me. And I kept hearing like, yes, but in my head, but I didn't question it a lot. I just got to a point where I didn't want to go to that church anymore. And I didn't want, when I moved to Atlanta, I didn't want to find a new church like the ones I've been to in DC. So when he suggested, let's go to SLCA, unfortunately, he was also very much about, let's evolve our thinking to something beyond what we're just hearing about in the traditional Black Baptist church. We went. And I come to find he did this every Sunday, but I thought that this guy, I thought he was just speaking to me. His name was Reverend Paul Gagne. I will never forget Paul. And he started off the whole service by explaining what Science of Mind is and what we do and what the purpose is. It was like the universe, God sat me there and said, this is exactly what you need to know. And I was like, I'm hooked. That's all I need. It was so amazing. And it was, and then even on a small level, it was only an hour. You could wear whatever you want. And it was like not far from my house. I went every single Sunday for about 3 years. I did not miss a week. So that was in May of 2008, Memorial Day weekend. I'll never forget that. And then 2 months after that in July, this woman, Susan, spoke. And Susan is what I now consider to be me. If I were a white lesbian, she and I would be the same, okay? She's a wonderful woman. I love her. A white lesbian who's over 60. I would be Susan, okay? I would be Susan. Anyways, Susan spoke, and Susan said, I prayed to God to lose weight, and I started losing friends. And I was like, wow. That spoke to me so much because it was kind of what I was going through. You know, I'm thinking I want one thing, but really what happened in her life is you wanted to let go. You wanted to release. Well, you're releasing now, but it's just not the release that you think that it is. That you think that it's just weight off my body. No. You need to release some people in your life.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. And so I heard it. And so fortunately with SLCA, with New Thought, they do spiritual practitioners, and Susan was a reverend. So I went to her and I was like, oh no, we have to work together. So Susan became my spiritual practitioner, which is the equivalent of a spiritual therapist, but not, or even a life coach. She is like that. And during that time, the other part about this is that I was broke completely. I had like no money. And I decided to get out of debt later that year. But I decided that I was going to find the money to pay Susan every week or 2 weeks or whenever I could see her, because I felt that she understood me in a way that I could not see to myself. And so Susan and I met about once a week. We still talk today. We just don't talk as much, but we still talk today. That was, like I said, 12 years ago. And Susan just changed my life. She opened up, she made me see things about myself that I would have never seen if I had not sought her advice, and her guidance on a spiritual level. At the same time, I found, and this is where I was willing to dive all in, I also went to see a regular therapist. And Keely was great. Keely was a Black woman who was around my age. So when I started talking about relationships, she was like, oh girl, I understand. But she did it in a very clinical, by the book way. But it was really helpful having Susan, who was 25 years my senior, giving me kind of like an older sister spiritual guidance. And having Keely, who was maybe 5 years older than me, giving me a clinical / older sister type of vibe. And it helped me tremendously. Those two women changed everything about the way I was thinking about myself. And I was just willing to shed the layers over and over again. And so finally, and this is when I know the layers were being shed, I'm telling you, when I finally was able to break up with the guy, it took years. It took me 3 years after I started working with them. But it wasn't even like intentional. Like, I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to do it. It was, my dad said, I work with my family's company, and we were closing our office in Atlanta. And my father was like, so you can either stay in Atlanta and get another job, or you can move home and we'll give you a promotion. And in that moment, I was like, oh, I'm going home. I never had a desire to go home. I never had a desire to move back to DC. I loved Atlanta. I loved everything, but something in me was like, girl, this is your out and you need to take it right now.
Ooh.
And so I just told him, my now ex, I was like, I'm moving. We've got a couple months, but I'm leaving. And that was it. And I was very resolute. Like and it was so amazing to me. I didn't think about it. There was no thinking. It was like the work that I had been doing for the last 3 years, including getting out of debt. And we're talking about shedding layers.
Mm-hmm.
The work that I had been doing really both strengthened me on an internal level, and I got to shed some layers. And those two things helped me get to a point where I was like, yeah, so when that opportunity came up, it felt like a gift. It felt like something, out of nowhere. And I was so grateful. I hadn't even been thinking about breaking up with this guy. That is how much I had changed, that I wasn't even focused on him anymore. I was focused on me and what I needed to do. It wasn't even about him. Actually, the relationship got better. When I started working on myself, the relationship got better. It wasn't better enough that I knew we were going to stay together, but it was better and so all of that shifted within myself. Anyway, I moved back to DC and I continued on my spiritual work. I knew I wasn't done. Like I knew that was just the beginning of it. And I felt like that was like the big hurdle. And then came all the lessons I needed to know about how I even got myself in that place in the first place. So I spent the next 7 years, basically like going through a lot of spiritual work, doing the deep dives and also being alone and being depressed and like wondering what's happening. But it was all part of the work for me. I never felt, even though sometimes I didn't love the work, I felt like I'm getting towards a greater thing. I attribute it sometimes to the way I feel when I work out. I don't love working out, but when I'm done, I love how I feel, when I'm done working out. But if you ask me any time before to the time that I get to the gym, no, I'm not really loving it. But when I'm there, I have a purpose. I have a goal. And when I leave, I feel so good. I'm like, yes, you did that for yourself. That's how I felt through the work. And I kept putting timelines on it and that never worked for me. Maybe you guys have done that, but then for me, I kept saying, okay, in 6 months, I'm going to be better and everything's going to be great. And I'm going to retire. It does not work like that. I just knew. I was like, I gave myself deadlines and everything. I have a lot of masculine energy in me, guys. Anyway, so I finally got to a space, and I will never forget this. I've been doing my work, really doing it. And the space I realized it was my 40th birthday party where I felt a level of peace that I had never felt.
Wow.
And it was it was peace and it was contentedness. On the outside, nothing looked different. I mean, I was, you didn't see anything different. But I remember that moment at my 40th where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm okay. Like big, deep breaths, like I'm okay. And I met you after that. Same year of my life. I was 40, but it was like I turned 40 in August of 2017. You and I met in April of 2018.
Right.
So I had then started reflecting on my journey because it was like, oh my God, like I didn't realize, but I had reached that level of that peace, that contentedness, and the messages started to come more and more, and I started to just get comfortable with hearing the lessons. And interestingly, when you and I met, we were you remember that medicine ball?
Yes.
Yes.
Medicine wheel.
The medicine wheel. Thank you.
Yeah, in the Peace Park in Sedona, Arizona.
Oh my gosh. It was so great. So when we were there, and mind you, I don't know about you, but I didn't really know what I was walking into that weekend, that retreat weekend. So I was like, I'm going to go with it, but I didn't know what I was walking into. So earlier that year, that was in April, in January, I'd done an astrology reading. And this is more of a fortune teller type of astrologer. And so she was like, in 12 weeks, you're going to meet your mate. And first of all, she was wrong, guys. Just no, she was completely wrong. But she said that. And she was so forthright. She just knew she was right. So I decided to believe her too. And anyway, it was within those 12 weeks that we got to the medicine wheel. And at the medicine wheel, I heard, a husband is going to be the smallest part of your big dreams. You are about to do massive things. I heard that and I was like, what is this? They were like, if you just focus on a husband, you're thinking way too small. You're about to do massive things in your life. to where that is going to be one element. A happy marriage is going to be one element, but trust, it's not going to be the biggest element.
I have chills from head to toe.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, oh my gosh.
I did too. And so that same weekend, and I will never forget this too, we were finishing up that last session with the guy, I think his name was Ty. And
yes.
he was there. Okay.
The shamanic healer, Ty.
Yes. I was the first person. We had a circle and Ty was going on. I don't even remember quite what Ty was doing, but I just remember I was the first person. And Ty said, and I introduced myself. I said, I'm Simone. And Ty was like, hey, Simone, welcome. Thank you. I'm so glad you're stepping into your power. And I was like, what is he saying? What? And I thought to myself, maybe he's going to say it to everybody else in here. Maybe this is like Ty's way of entering. And it wasn't. And I listened to everything that he said to each one of you. I was like, he didn't say anything like that to anybody. I was like, wow. That's when I fell in love with Sedona too. I was like, Sedona really has healing properties. It was so cool because I really felt like the universe was listening. They started to listen, but most importantly, not the universe was listening to me. I was starting to hear back. I was starting to hear the signs. I was starting to hear things. And even now, I'm not going to say that I hear everything, but I am much more in tune when the universe speaks to me in a way that I can say 10 years ago, I was so in my head. And even now, I have to watch myself from overthinking. I was so in my head that it had to make sense. It doesn't have to make sense now. And I'm not going to say I'm just going to jump out there on a whim or whatever, but I will say that I am much more apt to allow things to come to me and listen. And that is a huge, huge shift because as I said, I'm a Virgo. So everything that you can think about Virgos and the analytical, the perfection nature, that is me. Like I am an atypical Virgo in all of the ways that, again, the Western society says Virgos are. And that is true. So for me to get out of my head and to drop down into what is God saying to me, what is coming through, where's the direction? And I'm not going to lie, I still work on this, but it is so much clearer now. I hear things now in a way that I was never hearing them before. I just wanted to look right on paper. I wanted to control everything. I wanted to be the one that made things happen versus allowing things to happen. And that's been a huge shift. So that was a very long answer, but that really was the journey. Yeah.
So there's a few things, Simone, in your message that I'm hearing. That first, you asked the divine for help.
Yes.
Because you knew you needed help.
Yes.
The help was delivered in the form of two people who served as your guides or coaches.
Yes.
And then circumstances serendipitously helped you solve problems such as the opportunity to move to DC.
Yes.
The guidance that you received, and then always being hungry for learning and changing and growing, which took you to Sedona, to the retreat that you didn't even know what that would blossom into.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I will also say, to add into that, there were other people that came into my life that I could not have planned. Lisa being one of them, which again, the person that connected us. These are not people that I could have ever planned to meet. You know, they were before Lisa, I met a lot of, again, they were typically older women. Some were Black, some were white, some were Asian, but they were typically a little bit older than me, older enough to relate to my concerns and be able to shed some wisdom and guidance. That was massive for me. Lisa was another one like that. But again, even with that, I met Lisa at a financial conference. You know, I don't even know what I wrote to be connected with Lisa, but somehow they connected me. And that's not something I could have created on my own. Absolutely not. So you're absolutely right.
So that's a really important lesson, that when you embark on a journey of self-empowerment, spiritual awakening, moving up, bossing up, empowering yourself, the universe responds. God responds, however your belief system is, by presenting people and opportunities where you can continually learn, advance, ascend. And so now that gets us to the very important place, Simone, where you feel at a crossroads. You're ready to shift gears and try a new trajectory in your career. What does that feel like, and what do you do?
So again, going into my natural way of overthinking, basically what this is that I had decided about one career move. I knew I was done with the job that I have. I love my family and I'm in a family business, but I knew that I needed to do something bigger for myself. And I knew I needed to step away from that, not with any level of animosity or anger or anything like that. It's just time, to grow. So I knew that. I thought that it still could be there, that I was going to do coaching and move into business coaching. And I do think I'm very good at, I'm not, I think I know, I am very good at business coaching. There was a lot of challenges for me in figuring out, start the launching of a business. I mean, there are challenges that come with launching of a business. Mm-hmm. It's not something I've ever done before. And then an opportunity came up before last month, I think I said, well, okay, I'm going to pursue this coaching thing, but I really hate to leave 20 years in housing. I've been in housing for 2 decades. It's the only thing that I've done. And although my interests have gone in a variety of places, I kind of hate to leave housing. I will, if that's for the best, but I just, kind of didn't want to. So an opportunity came up and it came to my mind the end of October, beginning of November. And I started reaching out to some people and just asking them, and they were like, oh, you could totally do this. You would be great here. Here's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to, I'm going to help you and blah, blah, blah. And they meant it. Mm-hmm. And at one point I was like, but am I staying within my comfort zone because it is still in housing, or it's a different job? It's not entrepreneurship. It's a different job, but it's within housing. I would get paid more. I would be able to make an impact, I hope. But am I really living in my comfort zone too much? Am I just settling? And I've decided, I don't really know the answer to that question yet, but the great work is I'm not trying to answer the question. Ooh. I am going to do the work. I'm just going to continue applying. And I have said to God, we're having a conversation all day long with each other, me and God, it's constant conversation. If this is not the opportunity for me, I'm totally okay. If this is the opportunity for me, I'm totally okay. I am having to learn to surrender to the process and undergo the process. And again, that's work, because I am a type A person that wants to know the outcome before it has even occurred. So I'm willing to do the work, but I want to know that I am headed towards a very clear-cut goal. And so for me to just say, well, you know what? I'm going to put my coaching business on pause, or relative pause, for a moment, so that I can focus on this other opportunity over here, which really keeps me in a looking like a career position, which doesn't look like anything that I said I wanted for the last 5 years. Wow. But it feels like it's better. And interestingly, and again, like I said, I work with my parents. When I brought up to my mother 2 years ago that I really was ready to leave and do something different as I was building my coaching business, she was not supportive. But interestingly, this time when I brought this up, she was very supportive. And she has gone out and she has called people and, done a lot of networking on my behalf. I have reached out to people and everybody is very supportive, and everybody that I've spoken to has made either some kind of connection or provided me with some kind of insight that would really help me get this position. Wow. And so I have to notice the fact that the universe is aligning towards this in a way that I'm not going to say coaching didn't align, but I'm going to say it just was like, I got to figure this out. It felt like more work. But again, my overthinking makes me think, is the lack of work meaning that it's comfort zone? Am I staying in my comfort zone? And this is my thing. But I realized this evening, no. And literally, I realized this an hour ago, guys. This is a continual process with me. It is hard work. It's not supposed to be hard, first of all. Now, getting out of your comfort zone does not have to be hard either. Getting out of your comfort zone could literally be, I'm trying something new. And that doesn't have to be hard. But I think a lot of times we equate, or I at least equate, hard work with stepping out of your comfort zone. And you are not always aligned. Sometimes the stepping out of your comfort zone is saying, I'm willing to see things differently and shifting to another perspective. But just stepping out of the line that you've always been focused on, these narrow walls, and saying, I'm willing to look over here and consider that everything I believed in my entire life there could be something different to that. That's something there. Is it hard in the sense of moving a mountain? No, it's not physically moving a mountain, but it is saying, oh my gosh, maybe I need to take the glasses off. And that in and of itself is work. So one thing that I have, again, this is a continual conversation within myself, is understanding that just because it's hard work and stepping out of your comfort zone don't have to be the one and the same.
Wow, I love this, Simone. I did a solo Boss Up Goddess show the other day about how to escape your comfort zone. So I'd like to please hear, what is your definition of comfort zone?
For me, it's probably continuing to do the same thing over and over and over again and not seeing any benefits.
Ooh, that hurts.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Do I enjoy it? And I'll tell you, I'll give you a comfort zone. And this is why, Elizabeth, it's again serendipitous that you asked me to do this, because you have been on my mind. In the sense that I am now having a conversation with me about my weight and my size. And not that I'm not huge, but I eat very, very well. And yet I have been gaining a lot of weight. And so, well, not a lot, I've been gaining weight. So I'm having the conversation within myself as to, okay, what's happening here? I don't think that it's not anybody else outside of me. It's something that I am doing within myself. And what do I need to know? And I know because of my diet that I have discipline. I have a lot of discipline to change the things, but I have to get to a space. And so where I think that mine is possibly in drinking wine. I had given myself justification in drinking wine because I've cut so much other stuff out of my diet that it's kind of like my one vice. But now it becomes a matter of, is this really serving me? And I don't think that eliminating the wine is necessarily serving me, but I do think that putting some guardrails on it in a way that makes it serve me could be very valuable. But if I continue to live in the comfort zone of, look, I eat, my diet is so strict that I can continue to do whatever I want with the wine and it doesn't matter. I don't think that's right. That's not fair to me.
Right.
You know, to continue living this. So, but at the same time, eliminating it doesn't feel fair to me either. And my way is typically eliminating. So I am trying to get out of the comfort zone of saying all or nothing. My comfort zone is, how do I create balance and enjoyment of both enjoying the wine, but not so much that it overwhelms my body or it creates a body that I'm not happy with.
Right.
So that's a super small example, but that's what I'm dealing with in this moment.
I talked about food being a comfort zone because it is. It's like it comforts us, and when we have the mental chaos of guilt or anger at ourselves or that negative self-talk that, oh, you shouldn't have eaten that, you shouldn't have had that to drink or that much, you're gaining weight, you're getting exercise, whatever. All of that is such a distraction from our higher calling.
Yes.
Noise, it's self-sabotaging, and it's serving the purpose of stopping us.
Yes.
And if you want to boss up to yourself and then to the world and embark on a whole new endeavor, and do the thing that's so much bigger that the psychic person told you, or the tarot reader, you have to recognize, or we have to recognize, these patterns that we're holding ourselves back.
Absolutely. And I will tell you one big thing that, to your point, that I've realized, part of the holding ourselves back is judging ourselves.
Yes.
Is really getting into another conversation. This timing that we're having this conversation is so great, because another conversation I've realized within myself is that, again, I have a lot of masculine energy and I'm putting that out into the universe, when really part of my work in this world is expressing my feminine energy a lot more. My boyfriend, on the other hand, is phenomenal with expressing his feminine energy. It's just amazing. Wow. And I'm watching him and I'm like, he just does it. I mean, this is just who he is. It's never a question for him. But if I judged if I judge the fact that I tend to respond from a masculine perspective because that's more of a defense mechanism versus just saying, hey, let me notice that I'm responding from this space, but I would really like to be responding from this space and work towards that. That's not a judgment. That's not making me wrong and him right. And oh, I wish I could be more like him. No, he's not perfect either. But I just appreciate. So this is a huge thing. Stopping the judgment on ourselves and blaming ourselves and not feeling good about things when it's just if we start to notice, oh, this is what I'm doing. Am I okay with that? Would I rather project something else? No judgment, no criticism, just being, and then taking accountability, taking responsibility, and moving forward.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. It's so this is something my sister Catherine is always saying, that all of these things don't happen overnight, and it's a full-time job to work on yourself.
Yes.
Always being aware of your thinking, your behavior, analyzing it. How can I change? How can I be better? It is a full-time job, and it sometimes is exhausting.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
But guess what? Just like anything that's difficult, the rewards are glorious.
Totally worth it.
Glorious. So what you invest in yourself pays tremendous dividends that are immeasurable.
Yes.
So I know you are going to step out there and conquer it, with whatever your new thing is going to be, Simone. I know you're going to rock it.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's at the very, very least, it is exposing me to ways of thinking and being, and even things like it's helping me get out of my own way. Because I never liked the process of asking someone for anything. And this is forcing me to ask people for things. And that is a huge thing. And I'm not going to say everybody has said yes, or everybody has been like, oh, I'm willing to jump through hoops for you. That's not the point. The point was that it was my responsibility to ask for what I want. And more people than not, far more than not, have been far more open and giving and receptive in a way that I could have never predicted. So that's been a massive lesson for me. And so thank you. So I'm pleased. Again, I'm pleased with the process. I'm pleased with, and I really do believe that there's something good and better that is going to come out of this, whatever it looks like. But I have just decided to release myself from thinking that it's going to look a certain way. I'm no longer thinking that. I just don't know what it's going to look like.
I love that. I love that. Simone, if our viewers want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Well, I right now, because I'll tell you what, I'm going to send you guys to our website, which is homefreeusa.org. And if you don't mind, Elizabeth, can I tell a little bit about Home Free?
Oh, please do. It's so
great.
Important.
So Home Free USA is, as I said, it's our family business, and started in 1995 by my parents. And basically, our whole job is to help people get into homes. The reality is, there is, in addition to the racial wealth gap among people of color not being able, really not knowing that this opportunity exists for them, or not having enough money, or not having enough knowledge, whatever the case may be, there are people of all races and colors who never thought that homeownership would be an option for them. They felt like, I don't make enough, or I don't know anything. Nobody on my family has ever owned a home, or whatever the case may be. And the reality is, home ownership, the home buying process, is very daunting. And so if you don't know and you've never been around it, it's understandable that you would be very intimidated to buy, or just feel like it's not for me, it's for them, whoever they are. So Home Free USA was created to be the middle person between the person who wants to buy a home and the closing table. And so we do that through financial education, information, motivation, everything. And at the end of the day, we help you find a loan product that works for you. If you need a realtor, we'll connect you with a realtor, but we're not realtors and we're not loan officers. So our job is not to lend or find you a house. Our job is to educate you and prepare you for homeownership. It is to answer your questions. It is to make sure that all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed in your financial profile. You do not have to come to us looking a certain way. Your financial profile has to look a certain way. Our job is to take you from where you are to where you want to be. Yes. And that's what we've been doing for the last 25 years, 26 years actually almost. And it's been a great thing, and we thoroughly enjoy it. So although our offices are in the DC metro area, we have 53 affiliates nationwide, including some great ones in your area, Elizabeth, and a few others in 21 states. And then we all do work virtually. So if you guys are interested in considering homeownership, and this is really important right now during times of the pandemic, if you are in a position where you are worried about losing your home potentially, you may have a forbearance right now, and that forbearance expires at the end of next month, and you're trying to figure out, well, how am I going to pay my mortgage come January 1, or come January, let's say you're a renter and you are under an eviction moratorium, but that expires January 1. And you don't know where you would go if your landlord evicts you, or if the lender starts foreclosing. This is what we also do. So we're not just for home buyers, which is obviously a very important thing, but for you renters and homeowners who are afraid of potentially losing your home one way or the other, that's where you would reach out to us. And you can go to homeforusa.org, and I'll happily give you my email address too. And you can just email me if you have any thoughts, but check out our website and you'll find out some additional information. And again, the location, wherever you are in the country, is not important, because we can work with you on a virtual level.
Oh, I love it. I will put the website link in the description box for this video so that people can find you and take advantage of this wonderful, wonderful service that you provide.
Great. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. You're welcome.
We appreciate it. Yeah, it's desperately needed. And a lot of people unfortunately don't know where to go, where to turn. And the challenge is that they wait until it's too late. So guys, if you are under moratorium until the end of the year, but you know that there's a good chance you're not going to have any money available come January 1 or even February 1, we encourage you to reach out to us now to get the process started, because we don't want you to be in a worse position and you're not able to get any help. So yes, and we are a nonprofit, so that does make a difference. We are independent mortgage experts. We've been doing this a long time, so definitely reach out.
Oh, Simone, thank you. I'm so glad you shared all of that. That's so useful and helpful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Wow. So do you have any last words about how to find your power and transition into the next level of your life?
Well, I would really say that, first of all, accepting yourself and taking responsibility for yourself wherever you are in life is incredibly important. Not looking at anyone or anything outside of you to change you, even though that may seem very, very hard. It may seem like everyone else has power right now in a way that I don't. Give yourself some grace on that, and understand that if you start taking responsibility for that which you can control, which is not everything, you will be shocked at how many things just start opening up and changing for you. And then the other thing that I would say is, again, as somebody who's continually working on this, is really surrender to the process. It's really just, you don't have to have everything figured out when you are going after something. You can just get to know your gut, get to know your intuitive self. And you may not know everything, but you can know that this feels right now. And you'll know whether if that's an emotional high or if that's like your true self. You will start to know that. And the more you talk to yourself, the more you will know the difference between the emotional self, like the one who's just like, I'm just angry and I'm going to run out, I'm not speaking to her anymore, versus, you know what, that person no longer serves me. I wish them well. I love them, but I have to love them from afar. Those are two totally different energies, and you still get to the same thing.
Wow. And you might lose weight in the process.
So you might lose weight in the process. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Simone Griffin, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your wit and your insight tonight. You are just an amazing woman. I appreciate you immensely.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I love this show and I can't wait to watch and send everybody your way. They're going to learn so much from you.
Thank you. And I want you to come back after you achieve this big, new, wonderful dream that you have.
Thank you. I definitely will. Hopefully in the next 6 months, I will have some kind of answer. So
awesome.
Thank you. I will.
All right. Thank you, Simone. And thank you all of you for watching Boss Up Goddess, where I interview trailblazing women who share their wisdom to help us all live bigger, better, and bolder. If you're getting value out of this program, please do like, share, subscribe, comment, and click the notification bell so you'll get alerted every time I go live or upload a new video. Meanwhile, I'll see you in the next episode, and remember, you have the power.